crucial advantage. And the experts tell us that educational attainment will be even more important in the years ahead in determining who succeeds and who struggles. We Minnesotans have always earned our success. We don't have rich oil and gas deposits. We don't have scenic oceans and warm winters. It's never been given to us. And we know that it doesn't come free. 1971 was referred to by many as the Minnesota miracle. And it was a miracle, but it didn't come from up above. It resulted from the largest tax increase in Minnesota history. Income taxes increased by 22%. And the money went to K-12 education and to shifting the primary source of that education funding from the local property tax to the state income tax. Now, I want to assure you that I am not proposing a 22% income tax increase. In fact, I am proposing no state income tax increase for 98% of Minnesotans. I'm proposing no change in the items subject to the state sales tax. Unfortunately, that means I will not be able to lower either the sales or the corporate tax rates, or provide every homeowner with a $500 per year property tax rebate. My revised budget, which will be announced tomorrow, carries most of the $2 billion in permanent spending reductions into the next two bienniums. It raises about $1.8 billion in additional revenues, mostly through a fourth-tier income tax bracket and a cigarette tax increase, which provide enough revenue to offset the $627 million deficit projected for the next two fiscal years, and to make significant new investments to improve education at all levels. From expanded early childhood education to optional all-day kindergarten for children statewide, both critically important, the experts say, to improving their readiness for elementary school and closing the achievement gap, and all the way through high school and college, especially in training students for the good jobs of the modern era. Those of you, especially in manufacturing, know the jobs that used to, where high school education used to suffice now require increasingly advanced and very focused skills. And those are good jobs if young people are trained properly for them. I'm told by Microsoft that they presently have 2,600 vacancies for people with computer science degrees or experience. Starting salary is $105,000 with the benefit package is over $200,000 a year. Half my staff are now filling out applications. Wouldn't it be motivating junior high school students if they knew that if that were an area of interest of theirs, that they could go through their high school and college and step out into a $105,000 a year annual salary? So both Chancellor Rosenstone of the MnSCU system and University of Minnesota President Kaler are focused on how do we retool our colleges and universities to prepare young people for the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past. And that means acquiring new curriculum, technology, and equipment. But that's an imperative if we're going to be competitive in the world of the future. I've been to China 8 times. I've seen it in some of those 1.3 billion very motivated, hard-working people going to work 100, 120 hours a week, 50, 60 cents an hour, at jobs that used to be here. I went to one Nike plant outside of Shanghai, and it's a small plant, only 5,000 workers. The large ones have up to 100,000 workers. And they said 250 pairs of hands touches every pair of Nike shoes they make them. It's not high-tech, it's not automation, it's just cheap labor. Young men working very hard, perforating soles, young women sewing seams. They're upwardly mobile, they're ambitious, they're not going to stay for all that long, but they're willing to work very hard. Those jobs aren't coming back here. So we and our children and our grandchildren are going to have to out-invent the Chinese, out-innovate them, out-manage them, and out-perform them. We're going to maintain our world economic preeminence, and better education will be key. I believe that my budget presents a balanced approach to reducing old spending, increasing it in key areas like education and economic development, and a fairer tax system. I expect that the Chamber will oppose it. All I ask is that you oppose it with the facts. Be glad to respond to questions.
Governor Dayton has graciously agreed to stay for about another 20 minutes with us. He will be taking questions. There are 4 microphones set up throughout the ballroom here. Please step forward. We'll recognize you. Please keep your questions short and to the point. Sir.
Governor Dayton, roughly 2.5 years ago, the legislature passed and you signed into law House File 1. And this was a bill that was supposedly going to streamline the permitting process. And granted, this is a problem you inherited, not one of your making, but I think everybody knows the story of Polymet, which has been trying to get a permit up in northern Minnesota to open a mine which has rich minerals that could be mined with the immediate 1,000 construction jobs, 500 permanent jobs. What can you or we do to get that mine up and operating?
Well, I agree with you that it's taken way too long. I think it's going on 6 years now, and that's much longer than any evaluation process would take. Right now, the Environmental Protection Agency is in charge, and frankly, if I had a badge of honor, I'd abolish the EPA, federal one, and just have the state local governments be responsible. I think these overlapping jurisdictions, duplicate and triplicate, are really dysfunctional and really just drag out timelines. The Polymet proposes a non-ferrous mining and a processing of that right up in an extensive area that's close to the boundary waters that affects the water tables for the whole North Shore, and as well as people who live right in that area of the Iron Range. And it's extremely controversial because it's brand new, and I think about 90% of the people in Minnesota have made up their minds already for it, against it. It's going to be a very difficult confrontation no matter what the decision is made to proceed or not, or how to proceed. Right now, the timetable is the EPA, the revised environmental impact statements due in this summer, and then at that point, the agencies, along with the federal agency, will have to start making their decisions and implementing the permitting process. So, that's atypical because of the scope of it and the newness of it. I think we're doing a much better job. At least the agency statistics tell me that, and you can tell me differently in terms of routine applications, permitting requests, and reapplications, getting those done. We said within 5 months. Now we're lowering that bar to raising the bar to 90 days turnaround, which is our goal to continue to streamline that process.
Any more questions for Governor Dayton? We do have 20 minutes with the governor, so please come up with a question. In the interim, Governor Dayton, I'll ask you a question. You, of course, began your career teaching school, I believe, in New York City. Based upon your knowledge of education and what you've seen, how can the educational process in Minnesota be improved? Do we need to look at teacher standards? Do we need to look at ways to bring people with a non-teaching background into education? What sort of things are you looking at in that area?
Well, the 2000 legislature, again, Republican majorities took the lead in both the alternative licensure, which opens the door for people with non-traditional educational training to come in and become teachers in Minnesota, and also the teacher evaluation process. And there was considerable discussion then about exactly how you could best measure teacher success and effectiveness, and part of it is based on test score results, and part of it is based on observations by principals and others, and that's being put into effect now and be implemented and start in the fall. So I think we've addressed both of those. I mean, I learned when I was teaching New York, one bad teacher ruins the classroom, one bad principal ruins the school. And I want every teacher to be a well-qualified